This is the War Room Roundtable podcast, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant businessmen and women on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on the road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their successes into your life and business. The War Room Roundtable is brought to you by your hosts, Jason Miller, CEO of Strategic Advisor Board, and Phillip Lanos, CEO of Own the Rhythm, and former podcast host for Entrepreneur and Inc. magazine. Welcome to the War Room. It is a pleasure to have you here. Michael, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here. I'm honored. So I'm looking forward to having some really fun discussions.
Yeah. No, I was looking over some of the notes, and you have a very varied background, but it's all tied to money and how people use it and manage it in the best of ways. So I think it stands to reason that the first question, our traditional question on the show, is going to be really interesting to ask you, and that is, do you yourself come from a family of entrepreneurs?
The answer to that is absolutely not.
Wow.
No. Just a little bit of background on my family. My parents are immigrants. They're Holocaust survivors, came to this country in 1951. My father worked in a factory until he retired. So no, I did not come from a family of entrepreneurs. In fact, my parents always imbued on my sister and me that we need to have professions, and we need to have a really good job, and you need to make really decent money, and you can always fall back on that no matter what it is you do. I have an older sister. Both she and I are entrepreneurs, okay? Because I think neither one of us, after a certain point, really felt like we wanted to work for someone else. Because we can make the rules, we can call the shots, we can run our businesses the way we see fit, and so we both took an entrepreneurial path.
Yeah, I mean, no one on the show is going to blame you. That's something that everyone on this show can relate to. No, seriously, it's just exciting to see that that's something that drove you, but then what you did with that drive, with that ambition, is you stepped into roles as a CPA, a CFO. You mentioned, some of the things you're doing that you have equity in, and things that you're running, and yet at the same time, in my notes, I see that you're involved in film production and being an artist and a musician. So where does that come in? Because was it you started off your career working for other people and knew you needed an outlet, or how did that? I'm just interested because we've had a few entrepreneurs here who have expressed that level of their creative side, and yet not all of them always share that. So I love that you shared that.
Sure. Well, I don't know, maybe it's a left brain, right brain thing. And I would say the majority of people that I know, and certainly not exclusively, that I know who are CPAs, are focused on the one side of their brain that allows them to be good at what they do as CPAs. I've always had, as a child, as a teenager, I always had this ambition to be an actor, like a stage actor, a Broadway actor, that kind of thing. And, there are a lot of people who want to be actors. I live in New York, and there are so many people that they call themselves actor. They're working in a restaurant, waiting tables or tending bar, and they may get a role here and there. But the chances of, the odds, I would say, of being a successful actor are pretty small, unless you're really, really, really lucky, or you're the progeny of an existing famous, celebrity actor. Because then, they can come right in and do their thing. And so, one of the things I was good at in school always was I was good in math. And even though I had my undergraduate degree in liberal arts, I majored in economics and sociology as my double major. And, I kind of gravitated toward the numbers part, the finance part. And so I went right on to graduate school and got a master's of science in accounting, and I became a CPA. That fell right in line with what my parents had always emphasized to me, that you have to have that profession. You have to have that backup, no matter what happens, you can always fall back on it. And they weren't wrong. And I certainly don't blame them. They came at it from a position of fear, and not only of fear, but of a survival mode, because they had to survive the experience they had as Holocaust survivors. They are Holocaust survivors. So I get it, and I respected it, and I followed a more traditional path to get to becoming a CPA. And I worked for different companies over long periods of time, and I was in public accounting. I left public accounting, but always worked in kind of like the finance, controller, accounting, tax areas. And then I went back into public accounting, I moved to New York 26 years ago, and I didn't really know that many people here at the time, so it would have been really difficult for me to set up my own practice. But I worked for a number of different CPA firms here, and I always used to think that the grass was greener somewhere else, and I came to realize shortly after I had gotten to the new place that the grass was just as brown as it was in the last place.
Ain't that the truth?
and the people that I worked for, like the senior partners in these firms, they all had something in common, and that was that they're the boss, you're the worker bee, and they're energy vampires. And they are all energy vampires, in my opinion. I had a coach once who told me, taught me that term, energy vampires, and it stuck with me. And I decided, why should I give them my energy? Why don't I use my energy to better myself in my own practice and do my own thing? And so that's what I ended up doing, quite a number of years ago. I had actually gone out on my own once before I lived in New York. And then I moved to New York. I sold my practice, and then I started my own practice here in New York probably 12 years ago now.
Yeah. No, I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing. And knowing what I know about New York, having been there for 4 years, and man, I get it. If there's any place you can start something, New York would be a place to do that, just because of the proximity of people. You can walk there. You can talk to people. Also, most people there really are the kind of people that go, well, I'll give you a shot. What show me what you got. They really, it's literally that, that kid shining the shoe and Mr. I want opportunity. Show me what you got, kid. And it really is that energy there. And to know that you had studied what you studied simultaneously, because you knew you had to cover your 6, as they say, and make sure that you took care and took stock to take care. All of that, it makes sense, man. And I think it's cool that you have that creative bent, because as we've covered on this show before, entrepreneurs are creative by nature, right? And sometimes an act of creation can be destruction, meaning disrupting an entire industry, changing the way things are done, even if that's workplace culture, by not being I'm the boss, you're the worker bee. Let's keep it that way, which we'll get into later. But before I keep going, I want to make sure I tap in with Jason here and see where he's at, because what you shared has been interesting.
Thanks.
I look at it. You said something very interesting, and that's energy vampires, right? It's the same in the workforce as it is, on the employee side as it is running a company yourself, right? Because you can either choose as a business owner to surround yourself with the right people, or you surround yourself with energy vampires, right? It's on both, because I've experienced both, right? So as running a company, putting the wrong person in the wrong seat, and they just suck the living life out of you, right? I mean, it when you're done for the day, because you're just like,
Wow.
you walk upstairs, you got that blank look in your face. You come in, the kids try to give you a hug, and you're just like a zombie walking in the door, right? Because they'll just suck the life out of you if you let them, right? And it's all about surrounding yourself with the right people, right? And I mean, before the show, we had this discussion about what you're doing with your life soon. And it's a testament to kind of scaling your way away from all that, from where you are now, right? The hustle and bustle of New York. And in my opinion, New York, that's an energy vampire in itself.
It can be if you let it. It can.
Yeah, right.
Most people get sucked into it, and
Mhm.
you're right about that. But I want to go back to something Phillip said before about, in New York, there are all these opportunities, from shining the shoes to waiting the tables to being able to do all these other different things. It reminds me of that line from the song New York, New York. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And that's kind of true, because New York's a tough town. And, while some people may give you opportunity, others won't. You kind of have to prove who you are. You have to, generate a reputation, as it were, of being really top notch at what it is you do, so that people will gravitate towards you and want to work with you. And something, Jason, you said about surrounding yourself with the right people, I can totally relate. I have hired people that were just the wrong people, and like you said, you got, at the end of the day, you're like a zombie. And I felt that way. And I literally had to fire people because of that, because it just was wrong. It just didn't fit. It didn't fit the culture. Maybe it didn't fit the knowledge base. Maybe it didn't fit a number of different things. But surrounding yourself with the right people is key. And holding on to the right people is really, really important. You've got to treat them well, compensate them well, all the right energy flowing toward them and from them. I think that's so critical. But something, Phillip, you alluded to earlier also about, my interest in and love for art, music, and so forth. I mean, I don't know. I started when I was in high school drawing pencil portraits of people. And when I got to college, I would sell them for $10 a piece. I'd have someone come up to my dorm room and I'd do a pencil sketch of someone and I'd sell it to them for $10. So I guess I was an entrepreneur then.
I was going to say, you're creative, but you also were just a business person. There's a lot of creative people who are like, I can't put a price on my art, man.
How I came up with $10, I'll never know. But I came up with $10, and, people would come to me because they saw what I did and they liked my art. So they bought it from me. And it was fun. And, it was an outlet for me, separate from my studies. And, I worked through school as well. And then in high school, I also had this passion for music. And I really wanted to learn how to play the piano, but we didn't, because we were very blue collar. We lived in an apartment and we didn't have room for a piano. So the next best thing was a guitar. So I picked up, I started playing guitar. I love to sing. And, it just went on from there, where I've done a lot of production accounting for film. I've invested in live performances, theater, Broadway, off-Broadway, Vegas shows, things like that. It's just a passion. I love it. I don't know what else to say. I just love it.
We need that energy. We need that passion. I don't think enough entrepreneurs open up to the idea of being your whole self, right? There are things outside of your business. Number one, your business is not your identity, even if it is your baby. These are obviously my opinions. I'm like just claiming these things as if they're facts, but they are things that I've seen after 2,000 conversations with entrepreneurs, that those who truly embrace their whole selves really get a lot more out of life in general. And it's doubly so important when it comes to business owners, entrepreneurs, because much like the city of New York, you can fall into the swamp that is your operations and start to believe that that is the entire planet, which is what eventually leads people to being that I'm the boss, you're the employee, is when they don't have a life outside of that, because then you forget why you started to do these things to begin with, right? So before we go any further, I'd like to just take a second to step into the mid-roll, because today's episode, couldn't have been possible without the love and support of people who've been listening for as long as they have now. And man, I mean, the show is just blowing up and it's incredible. And one of those people that's responsible for that today is sharing the credit. This company is all about every time someone swipes a card, like a debit card, credit card, your business, you pay like a Visa, MasterCard, and there's a fee, right? Now, one of those fees can go back into the system, normally a bank, but legally it could go to a nonprofit instead. Now, what nonprofit? That's really up to you. So what do you want to do? Keep giving money to the fat cats, or do you want to do some good in the world? You can easily start going in that direction with your business by just calling 877-201-7215 or visit sharingthecredit.com. And so thank you for allowing me to take that time to give a big shout out to one of our biggest supporters. With that said, though, Michael, the city of New York isn't where you plan to be forever. You've shared with us that you have a different vision for the future. But before we go to where you're going to be going now, I want to know, with what you're doing now, with the work that you're doing, specifically, is there anything that you feel most proud of being able to have accomplished with the work that you do?
Oh yeah. Well, I have accomplished creating my company, my CPA firm, which is successful, and it is something I'm very proud of, with my roster of clients and new clients that want to work with me. I just feel gratified that I've created something where people want to work with me, whether they're existing clients that want to continue working with me or new clients that decide they want to start working with me. I'm very gratified that I have created this company, this environment, and structured my price points in such a way so that it's attractive to people. It's like when people ask me, like, what are your fees? I tell them, they say, well, and I tell them, I'm not the most expensive guy on the block. I'm certainly not the cheapest guy on the block, but I've been doing this for decades. Okay. And so I don't go back to what my fees were 10 years ago. And so I'm very proud of that as an accomplishment. I'm also very proud of, and I don't know that we've touched on this yet, that I'm the CFO of a private equity firm. And we are in the business of and own precious metal mines in Colorado. And we're very likely to IPO this year. So this is going to be a huge game changer. So I'm very proud of the work that I've done there. We've been at it for 6 years with the mining business. We have been at private equity firm for 11 years. And my business partner, who's the CEO who started all of this, he and I have known each other for 20. So
Oh, wow.
That we've gotten to this point where we're very likely to IPO this year, that I'm very proud of as well. So yes, so I point to those two in particular. I'm proud of a lot of other things, but those are my two biggies.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is a whole new level of business. Not everybody's in the I got a mine business.
Yeah, right. What's cool is it's right across the mountain from me.
Oh man.
I'm in New York, that's in Colorado. I visited those mines 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't have been prouder of where we are and what we're doing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, it's something to be celebrated. I mean, that's a long way from being in offices somewhere in New York, listening to Sinatra say, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Man, you made it somewhere else now too.
It was the first time, by the way, I'd ever worn a hard hat in my life. You have to wear a hard hat to go into the mines, and first time in my life, I got the photo to prove it.
There it is. No, man, that's awesome. I'm really excited for you. I think one of the things I love so much about entrepreneurs, the ones who are really good at what they're doing, is they hear that about someone else's success and immediately they're like, all right, yeah, I got to double down and get to where I'm trying to go. What's my next level? What's my mineral mine, right? Where am I going to end up? And for you, that involves also expanding out across the world. As you shared, you have ambitions of now going to Spain. That's awesome, man. I mean, just if you look at the trajectory of what you've done, you have traveled both in the body and the mind, and that is evolution at its finest. And at the end of the day, we can only grow as much as our businesses. We can only grow our businesses as much as we grow ourselves. And this is something we've covered countless times on this show. So to see you fully incarnate that exact example is just off the charts, man. And it's something that we all aspire to. And who doesn't need a good story about getting to that next level and going further and ending up on the beaches while still having minds? And now you're like high level thinking and how that moves the world. Because let's face it, all these devices in our pockets, they've got minerals in them. So don't get it twisted. Big money, baby.
Saying all of that. And yeah, it's not just a game changer for me, it's going to be a game changer for a lot of people. And one of the things that I'm also very proud of is my philanthropy. And with this game changer, I feel like I can actually be more philanthropic and support more causes that mean something to me. But I also want to touch on one other thing, with being an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you both know this, is that, being an entrepreneur involves risk. And, risk is something that some people can handle and other people can't. Now, I come from a background where my parents didn't want to take any risks, and I get it. I understand their background, where they came from, and what their experiences were. But it was just something I never shied away from. I felt like, if this doesn't work, something else is going to work. And yeah, I threw some money at some things that didn't work out, and some painful lessons. But at the same time, it's not that I'm not one of those people that when something like that happens, that I pull back and say, oh my God, I can't do that again, because look at what happened this time. It's about learning from the experience and understanding that maybe next time you do something that involves risk, but it's a little bit more calculated than it was the time before. And you look at all of the pros and the cons, and I often do something which is very simple, and it's time tested. People have done it for, a long time. I don't know if it's decades or centuries or what, but I take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle, on one side pro, one side con, and I list them. And obviously, for me, it's obvious that if there are more pros than there are cons, this is something worth looking into further. If there are more cons, all right, move on to the next one. But it does involve risk, and anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. The ones that are already know this, but the ones that want to be, yeah, there are risks, but at the same time, without risk, there's no reward. Very simple. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but maybe some of your listeners need to hear it again, but no risk, no reward.
Amen. Everyone needs to hear that reminder.
So talking about mining, because I have to mention this, because I just seen it on TV last week, because my son watches YouTube and he's like really sciencey. And so these few water treatment or like sludge treatment facilities and whatnot for waste coming out of people's homes, they figured out how to mine out of the sludge that comes through. And there's just as much gold and silver going down the drain as there is being mined out of the ground every year.
Wow.
It's insane.
Is that just because people lose their jewelry down a drain or whatever it may be?
Lose their jewelry. A lot of hair products, a lot of the products we use have micro amounts of elements in them, right? Of stuff in them. And they're figuring out how to extract this stuff from the sludge. It's amazing. It's something you might want to.
Oh, wow. That's just a pro move right there. That's just a pro move. Whoever was in the office meeting going, you know what we're going to do? Sludge. I'm listening.
Well, think about it. Somebody's brushing their teeth, right? And all of a sudden, bloop, out goes a gold tooth, right? Well, there it went.
Oh, man.
Out of what the mining business that we're doing is we are very proud to say that our mining is sustainable, with the idea that wherever we mine, once we're done mining, we reclaim the land. So we restore it to the original contours. We plant the trees and the grass and all that kind of stuff. So you would never
Hey,
know that we have been there once we're finished with the mine.
that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Man, Michael, listen, on this show, we like to explicitly ask if you could have gone back to speak to your younger self. At this point, let's talk about when you first moved back to New York, let's say somewhere around that time, right? Before you started getting into the real groove. You had already tried once, you said, but you were still figuring things out. What would you say to yourself, knowing what you know now from the vantage point of a mine, if you will?
I would say pursue the entrepreneurial spirit earlier than I did. I was still stuck in that mode of, God, I got to get a good job with good benefits. And, if I do well, I'll retire from there and have a nice life. I would have pursued the entrepreneurial spirit much earlier. Not that it's ever too late, but, but it was a little bit later in life for me. Than as I look back, say, it didn't even have to be like a CPA practice. It could have been anything. But just pursue. I was thinking at one point of opening a pet shop in New York, where we sell pet products, because I'm a huge animal lover. We have 2 dogs at home, and I'm big on supporting animal refuges and all that kind of homeless and shelter pets and things of that nature. I'm big on that, but I would have done something. In fact, I did have a conversation with a coach I had at the time about doing something entrepreneurial around animals. And I never actually did that, but it was an idea that I had. And then I could never quite figure out how to make it work financially. Opening a storefront in New York City.
Forget about it.
It's insane. The rents are insane and they keep going up. And that's why a lot of businesses in New York fail, is because the rents are just astronomical. But I still think that, there were probably ways for me to explore being an entrepreneur at an earlier stage in my life.
Yeah, man. No, I remember walking through New York and asking some of the shops that sell phone cases out there, like on 22nd, and I forget what avenue it is, but near the jewelry district and things like that. And, they sell phone cases, hats, things like that. And they pay obscene amounts of money for their little warehouse that they just have to shut down. And I mean, we're talking 10s, 20, 30,000 a month, and they're selling, $3 phone cases. It's not happening.
I don't know how they make it. I don't even know how they break even, let alone, take enough money to pay their bills.
I don't think they do.
Really?
Man, no, it really, there's something to be said about being in business in that city. And mostly corporate money seems to be taking over more and more these days. And anything that looks like a mom and pop shop is probably being propped and supported by a bigger entity, just nobody knows about, which
the mom and pop shops are disappearing.
Oh yeah.
As we have on every corner, you have a bank, a major bank, you have a Starbucks, a Taco Bell, whatever else. But there are all these big, huge national chains that have basically taken over. There are very few mom and pop shops around anymore in New York. Maybe in some of the other boroughs like Queens and Brooklyn, but not where I am.
Yeah, no, Kings County and things, all of that. I mean, hey man, I'll have to trade war stories with you. Not that I've ever been to war. I'm just going to put that out there. But
you're in the war room now.
But I'll trade some stories with you about New York, man. No, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Before I go to the grand finale, which is the last piece of business we have left, I want to check in with Jason again.
Yeah, I would just say, when you talk about the small mom and pop businesses, right? Even here in where I live, you slowly see the strip malls start to just evaporate, right? And you drive downtown this week and you see another blank window. And then next week, there's another one. Next week, there's another one. And it's just, like the commercial stuff is just like slowly pushing mom and pop out of business for the next chain to move in. And all I could say to those that are running a mom and pop business would be, just try to position yourself and make sure you're running yourself online too. And that's where a lot of them are making the mistake, is they're trying to run a storefront, but they have no online presence to go with it. And the ones that are making it are probably selling more online than they are through their storefront. So
I'll give you an example. I have a client who is a shoe designer, and she manufactures all her shoes in Spain and sells them throughout Europe and the United States. Virtually all of them are online. Virtually all. Shopify and some of the major department stores like Saks. And so she sells that way. And every once in a while, she does a pop-up store. Every once in a while. So she'll do a pop-up store, serve champagne and hors d'oeuvres and that kind of thing. And she may sell a few shoes there as well, but most of it is online. And I think to your point, Jason, I think a lot more of it needs to be online than it does brick and mortar. Well, you can't do that with Starbucks. People aren't going to buy coffee online, if they want a cup of coffee. But
Starbucks doesn't need any help, though.
Man,
Taco Bell doesn't either.
that's what I'm saying. But when I hear all this, I immediately ask myself, there are so many interesting business models out there, similar to the way the music industry is propped up by maybe like the top 3% artists, and everyone else is an investment that just didn't work out. But that's the way the industry works. I imagine that while the majors here that are taking up all the retail are operating along a similar manner, I do believe there is room, and this is just me thinking out loud with other people who I know can understand this. I do believe there is room for a set of some kind of organization at that level that can sort of begin to foster sort of like an accelerator would with big tech, right? Yeah. But more focused on reestablishing that small business community and sort of getting like a mastermind that can do that. I don't know if that exists, but where I get this model from is someone we had on the show, Mitigate Partners. We had them on recently, and they essentially are a bunch of independent contractors who focus on like getting an employer designed benefits plan for their team instead of going with whatever big tech sends your way. And in order to get bigger clients or be more sustainable, they all banded together under one flag to sort of keep that ball rolling. And I feel like there's room to be doing that. This is just me spitballing out loud with two people that I know can see the play here. And I think there's, as we move forward as business owners, entrepreneurs, is something we may want to keep in mind about our impact as decision makers. Given that no business is an island, we get to vote who stays in the marketplace and who doesn't, right? And small business and entrepreneurship in general makes up a lot more of the actual revenue that eventually gets funneled over to big tech, whether we like it or not, So I think it's very powerful to see exactly how strong we are as entrepreneurs and small business owners, and how much of a factor we are to the decisions being made in the marketplace. It's something that I hope we can all consider, but this is just me spitballing. What I really want to get to is the grand finale, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
All right. All right. So for 1,000,000 points, Michael, and a trip to Spain.
This trip to Spain's already booked. It's December.
Trats. Well, we still got the offer on the table.
I'll take a free one.
My lawyers tell me I have to say that trip to Spain isn't real.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm not playing this game.
So if you could have had anybody here today to have heard this conversation, be a part of this conversation, your choice, your pick of the litter, any time and place in the world, who would you have chosen and why them?
My mom and dad. They're both gone now. And I think if they saw me as I am today, my mom just died this year in March. She was 95, lived a very long life, but I would love to have them here, because I think if they saw me today, they would just be in awe. They would be so proud of me. I think they were always proud of me anyway, but you know, where I am and where I'm going, I would want them here, my mom and dad.
You're just getting started, brother. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Big shout out to mom and pop. That is a solid choice for that question.
Thank you.
Man, I'm so happy for you. I really am. I've had a great time getting to know you a little bit, you know, and to learn about the ins and outs of the way you see the world. I'm gonna let Jason, as we do traditionally here, close us out.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Michael, for being here. There was a lot of gold. Haha, get it? Gold.
Minds.
There's a lot of gold in that conversation, just really, to be serious. If people are listening, they had some great takeaways from that. And there's a lot to be learned by all those years of experience that you went through, the failures, the successes, the failures again, the successes again, all those things, right? And I think a lot of people mistakenly look at business through the Hollywood lens, right? When they're first coming into it. And it's not that way. It's messy. You know, the curtain's ugly when you open it up, right? so, you know, and congratulations for your big win. I mean, that's really awesome. And not everybody gets to experience something of that magnitude, right? So really awesome. Thank you for being here. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Well, thank you both for having me. I had a really great time here today talking with you both. And yeah, you know, it was fun and I enjoyed it, but I'm honored actually that you would have me on the show, and I thank you both.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the War Room Roundtable with your hosts, Jason Miller and Phillip Lanos. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and always remember, if you can dream it and believe it, then you can go achieve it. We'll see you in the next episode.